Welcome into the college show on the Draft Nerds Network, powered by Dynasty Nerds. I'm your host, Garret Price, here with my good friend, Jared Wackerly.
Is that my cue to say hi?
That would be your cue to say something.
Usually you say, how you doing, man? And, so I'll ask myself that question like Quentin Williams. How you doing? I'm doing good. I'm a little tired. My son kept me up all night, but, we're doing a mock draft today. So you got to be excited.
He's going to blame his kids why he did bad.
So, there we go. That's what it is. That's what it is. You just heard Jagger May. Jagger, how I'm going to be specific. How are you today?
I'm actually doing really bad, dude. Whatever sickness you got has traveled over here to Arkansas, and I'm hanging on by a thread. And that's my excuse why I did bad. It's a real one, Jared. It's not, I'm not blaming it on children.
All right. And then Andrew, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. So I guess I'm the only one here doing well today.
Only one surviving.
I guess so. Yeah, I was going to say, we're riding the struggle bus, it sounds like.
Well, we have a 2026 mock, and this is getting fun because we're now at the point where we know. I can't technically say we know everyone because there are a couple players that are still kind of making this a little tricky for us, making this a little difficult. We should hopefully know very, very soon, though, all of the players. But we have a pretty darn good idea at this point. Tape is being watched. I'm like probably a third of the way through the running backs at this point. So we're starting to get some real work in at this point. So I'm excited for all of it. We're not going to waste a lot of time. Let's go ahead and get right into things. J-Wack, we start with you. You have the 1-1 Superflex tight end premium. Who'd you go with?
Yeah, so nothing's changed for us as a group, I think. 101 right now. And did you say, I don't know if you said, you might have, this is Superflex tight end premium. So even though it's Superflex, I'm still going running back here. Jeremiyah Love out of Notre Dame. We've talked about him plenty on this podcast. So if you're new to the show, elite prospect. And it's not like we get these guys all the time. But anytime that there's a high-end first-round running back prospect, you got to target them. And then when you turn on the tape, he backs up everything that's being projected. He's extremely explosive, catches the ball out of the backfield very well, can make you miss. He can go the distance. He's got that top-end gear that you want. He's got physicality in his game. Even though he's a little lean, he backs it up and can bring the boom at the point of contact. So I like this kid a lot. He's going to be a difference maker. It's just think about like adding Bijan Robinson or Jahmyr Gibbs to your roster. Like this is the type of projection that I see for Love.
And I actually just finished up a rookie profile on him. So if you're listening to this and you have not subscribed to the Draft Nerds YouTube channel, make sure you do that because not everything we're putting out is being put out in podcast form. There are some standalone videos like the Jeremiyah Love a video there, but also make sure you're subscribing to our film room because I went in and I think I've watched 6 games on Jeremiyah Love, and I came away absolutely amazed watching him play. Kid has some special traits specifically in the receiving game, but if you want to hear all my thoughts, go ahead and check that out. Make sure you check out the Dynasty Nerds film room so you can kind of make your own evaluation on these players as well. Andrew, what do you think about this kid?
Yeah, I think he's a very, very talented running back. I mean, I've went on film already and said like, I like him more than I liked Ashton Jeanty, and it's not because of anything that Ashton Jeanty did. And people have kind of given flack to where it's like, always next year's prospect is always the best prospect that you've watched. But it's like, no, Jeremiyah Smith, he's also really awesome, by the way. But Jeremiyah Love is a player that I really do like. And I think, with my fantasy brain a little bit sometimes where it's like PPR, pass catching ability, he does those things a little bit better than a guy like Ashton Jeanty does, but I still think he's very good between the tackles. So a player that I think is just very solid all around. There's really no weaknesses in his game to me. So interested to see where he lands. I think he's going to end up being a guy, though, that's a top 10, top 15 pick in the NFL draft.
Yeah. Jagger?
I mean, you guys said it all, man. Like his receiving abilities, some of the best I've ever scouted. It's Bijan, Jahmyr, Gibbs, and him. Like I can't say that I scouted CMC because that was a while ago at this point, and I'm still have a fairly young career. But I just from what I've seen in the NFL, Garrett, I get where you are seeing that. To me, this is without a question one of the best running back prospects that will probably be an instant top 5 running back in Dynasty.
Absolutely. And I'm passing it around to everybody. Probably didn't need to on Jeremiyah Love. And for time's sake, we'll probably just pass it to one person after each pick. But I did want to get everyone involved here early on. So let's go to the next one here. We've got the 102 pick. And this one is, what is this, Jack? Oh, no, Andrew. You're
Andrew.
Yeah, it's me. And Superflex, also, I think you just look at best player available on the board now. I'm going Fernando Mendoza, quarterback out of Indiana. Obviously, Heisman Trophy winner, national champion, undefeated season, 3,500 yards, 41 passing touchdowns. The kid did it all in college football this year. Prototypical size at 6'5", 225. It's going to have the NFL size that you want to see. I think he's a precise passer, very confident, clutch in those crunch time moments. We saw that happen throughout the college football playoffs as well, which I like to see going to the next level because those moments happen a lot in the big leagues, and he's going to need to do that for an NFL franchise. So it's good to see that he's confident and calm in those moments. And I think he runs well enough as a quarterback to make defenses respect the legs. It's maybe not a superpower of his, but it is something that defenses are going to be like, if he gets in trouble, he can take off and go. And that's going to make him just a little bit of a threat at the next level with his legs too. So it's going to be interesting to see, what happens with him overall as the NFL development comes, because I think we all expect him to be the number 1 pick to the Las Vegas Raiders. Are they going to be a team that can develop a quarterback at the next level? I guess we'll wait and see. But Fernando Mendoza, for me, he's the 101 in the NFL draft and my 102 right here in our Superflex mock.
Jagger, I know you've done some work on these QBs. How does Fernando Mendoza stack up against some recent 1-1s or top 10 quarterback picks?
I personally like him more than Cam Ward. I feel a lot more confident in him just because Cam Ward is a very big toolsy guy. I think Fernando Mendoza has tools and he has everything in between, the ears. Did
you mean to say that?
What?
You said Fernando Mendoza.
Oh yeah, yeah. Sorry, Fernando Mendoza has tools. Yeah,
I thought you were just coming up with a.
I was like, that was slick.
Nickname. Yeah.
That was slick. All right, I like it. Well, let's move on to the 103 and Jagger. It is.
That was a point I wanted to make. There's no baggage or anything like that. Like I just feel very confident. Sorry.
Oh, dude, if you want a guy to go to Vegas, it's this one. This one's got to go to Vegas, man.
Mm-hmm.
He needs it.
Yeah, I know he'll keep his nose out of trouble compared to maybe some other guys. So,
hopefully.
We'll see. All right, let's move on to 103. Jagger, you're on the clock here. We're now in the wide receiver range. Which one did you decide to go with first?
This is me wanting to talk about Makai Lemon and just pick him because I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure how often I'm going to click the button here. It's not that I dislike Makai Lemon. I think he's great. There's a reason why he won the Biletnikoff. And a lot of that is that what we keep saying on here is he plays much bigger than his size. He's very polished. He's a strong wide receiver, and you wouldn't say that if you only looked at his size metrics. And again, it's the polish. He's going to be a clear target earner. In the NFL, if he can consistently win like he did in college, I'm not sure, but I'm not saying he can't win. I just don't know if he's going to be able to continue to play that big and have that same usage, where I think that someone like Carnell Tate and like even I just wanted to pot on fantasy points, like someone like, I mean, there's buzz that KC Concepcion could go even higher. And I'm not just saying that because he's my guy, than Makai Lemon. I'm not like, that's not me, that there's actual real smoke on that.
Yeah, we'll see how things play out with these guys. But obviously at 103, you got to feel pretty decent about him. J-Wack, how do you feel about Makai Lemon?
I like the pick there. I probably would have taken Tate first now that I've scouted both of them, but they're extremely tight. Like Makai Lemon his nerd score is at like an 80 plus. It's actually just at an 80, but anytime you get to that level, like I said last week, you're looking at a really good prospect that you can safely count on to be a fantasy producer at the next level. Kind of think Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jackson Smith and Jigba type of guy, more of a slot guy, but can go up and make plays on the football. Runs very good routes, extremely good hands, can make plays after the catch. So he's got a lot of things in his package that you like. So yeah, nothing wrong with picking him here.
All right. Well, that puts me on the clock at 104. And I did end up going with Carnell Tate. And look, I know that there's going to be somebody that listens to this and they're going to say, well, this guy should be the first receiver. No, this guy should be the first receiver. I am not going to argue any one of these three guys. They are all great wide receivers. They all win a little bit differently, but they're all going to likely be big-time contributors at the NFL level for their team. Yes, there are guys that bust, and is there a chance somebody in this group busts? It can happen. But right now, as I see it, all three of these guys I would feel great adding to my team. But I added Carnell Tate with my pick here. And I know for some people, it's hard to take a guy this high that is perceived as the number two. You know, we had Jeremiah Smith as the guy at Ohio State. Carnell Tate kind of always playing Robin to his Batman. But we've seen plenty of guys in recent memory that it's just a ridiculously good wide receiver room. Did anybody think that, Justin Jefferson shouldn't be a first-round wide receiver because Jamar Chase was the guy? No, he obviously was a great player. Brian Thomas, obviously there's questions after this year, but everyone still thinks he's a very good receiver despite Malik Neighbors being there. This is the same type of situation. There are two legitimate first-round special talent type wide receivers that happen to be on the same team, and it just kind of is what it is. Even guys that were at Ohio State, the Emeka Bukas and the JSNs, were playing with other wide receivers that were getting more pub, maybe getting more catches or whatever, and they were still very, very productive players at the next level. So I think that's what we've got with Carnell Tate. He's going to be super reliable. I think of all three of these guys, if I wanted to play it super safe, I think he's the guy that I would want to make sure that I had if I wanted to make sure, without a doubt, that I don't miss. Andrew, you think the same way?
Funny enough, I think right now I lean Jordyn Tyson as my wide receiver one. So, I think just like you said,
as far as the can't miss though,
oh yeah. I mean, I think he has a very high floor, and I think you're right about the Ohio State stuff of we gotta just recognize most of the time that OSU wide receiver twos are probably a wide receiver 95% of the nation. This is just, where we're at with that school at this point. But yeah, I think he's a very safe floor type of wide receiver. I like the things that I've seen already on tape. I haven't done my full deep dive on Tate. He's the one of the three that I haven't done it yet. So I'll be getting into him here very shortly. But yeah, man, I don't blame anybody for going to any of these wide receivers. I think all of them are very good players. And it's going to come down to probably, landing spots, draft capitals, and things like that. Those could end up being the deciding factors between these guys.
Absolutely. Well, you just mentioned him as your number one receiver, but you're not up, unfortunately. Jared is up here at 105. So, Jared, did you take the last remaining of the big three receivers?
Yeah, I had to go Jordyn Tyson here, especially with Mott up next. But I think that's just how this draft's probably going to play out. Obviously, we'll see what happens on draft day and draft weekend, but I think this is how it's going to play. I started grading Tyson last night. I'm not complete on that yet, but just from some of the grades that I've already started slotting in, I can tell he's going to be another really high grade. So we're looking at three very good wide receiver prospects in this class, which is nice to see given the class as a whole. It's nice that we have three probably high-end top 15 first round picks at wide receiver, a quarterback, 101 that we all like. And then Jeremiyah Love rounds out the group. And then we'll talk about the next guy here in a second when Andrew makes his pick. But Tyson, when watching him, what I noticed, he's extremely bursty. He can get in and out of his breaks extremely well, and he understands like how to pace himself and how to pace his speed in his routes and to make people miss. Can go up and make extremely acrobatic catches on the ball. Like his body control is insane. And then he's just got a nice build to him too. I threw out in a text message to you guys earlier that I think a high-end ceiling comp for me would be Stephon Diggs when watching him. I think he kind of plays similarly. And I know, Andrew, last week you mentioned the injury concerns. Like that's really that's really like the big cons in his profile. But other than that, I mean, there's a lot to like with Jordyn Tyson.
I'll be honest, I'm less concerned about the injury stuff though today, the more that I've dug into it, than I was last week. Like,
can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the stuff, like if you go back and you look at the injury history, he missed 2023 with that redshirt injury year, and that was because in 2022 at the end of the year he had that knee injury that was the ACL, the MCL, and the PCL. That's a big injury. That's an injury that's like, if you look at that and you say, hey, that's the toughest one, that one's tough. I that's the one that scares me the most, but it's the furthest one down the road. We're the furthest removed from that one. So then you go into 2024 and he breaks the collarbone. I'm not worried about, broken bones. Those heal, and I don't think that really has anything as far as like soft ligament injuries and stuff like that goes. Then you have a hamstring strain. Yes, it's a soft tissue type of thing, but it's a strain. It's not necessarily that severe. So, the more that I dig into it, it's like, yeah, he had the big knee injury in 2022 that forced him to miss time off, but he redshirted that year. He took the time to let that heal. And then the other stuff is kind of just like, I guess, things that happen when you play football for me. So yes, he has an injury history. I don't know if I would say a lot of it that is on the list of injuries is going to project to future injury for me.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, Andrew, you get to make the next pick. You're obviously, your favorite receiver's gone. All those big time names right now that we have as our kind of our top three grouping there are all gone. So where do you go in the Superflex tight end premium draft here at 106?
Yeah, this was a teardrop for me. I think all five of those guys we talked about, I'm super excited to click the draft button on. But here it's like, all right, I'm now to the next guy, and I'm going to go with the format, and it's tight end premium. I'm going Kenyon Sadiq. So Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon, he's my next pick. I think if you look from a talent, like positional talent perspective, he is elite for a tight end prospect. 51 receptions, 560 receiving yards, 8 touchdowns this year. He's a guy who's 6'3", 245 pounds, and an explosive athlete. So we've seen him be this very natural hands catcher as a receiver, which obviously we love to see that for NFL production and fantasy production. He's a very versatile route runner. He's lining up all over the football field. They're putting him in the slot, out wide. Sometimes they're having him like in the backfield at times, like lining up in the backfield. So he's a guy that's lining up all over the place. And he has very good body control and spatial awareness, especially against like zone coverages where he's just finding these soft spots in the zone and making it easy for guys like Dante Moore. So I think he's going to be very friendly at the next level. You think of these top tight end prospects that we've had over the last couple of years. I think we have another one here in Kenyon Sadiq. So he's going to be my guy right here in this next tier, in a tier of his own. And he's the last of like the elite talents, in my opinion.
What do you think on this one, Jagger? Because you were probably the first person to bring up the name Kenyon Sadiq to me. So how do you see this player translating to the next level? And obviously, we talk fantasy as well on our other channel. Does he tie into fantasy pretty well or no?
Yeah, I think he's a slam dunk, immediate impact player. Now we don't see the tight ends are slow to make it in the NFL anymore because, like I keep bringing up, colleges are getting better at utilizing these tight ends, and he has all the weaknesses, or he has all the strengths of Jonnu Smith and Kyle Pitts, and together that means he doesn't really have any other weaknesses. Even though he's 6'3", which is shorter for some other tight ends, he doesn't play like that. They're moving this guy and pulling him like a guard. They're moving him in and out of the slot, in line. He can block, and that's not going to be a liability whatsoever. And then he can make plays after the catch and downfield.
What you guys think about the comp? I don't think he's as much of an athlete as this guy because he was extremely athletic, but Vernon Davis, kind of.
Vernon Davis could block. Yeah,
Yeah.
That dude was a freak, though.
Yeah, he was. And
yeah.
to kind of go back to like, you said 6'3", the size. We've seen guys like McBride, who's only an inch taller, 6'4". Like he's out here being as dominant as anybody can be at the tight end position. So I don't even think the size for me is going to be that big of an issue, especially if you're being utilized that much as a receiver. Like I said, just lining up all over the field as a weapon.
Agreed, 1,000%.
All right. Well, we go from Kenyon Sadiq at the tight end position to Jagger's pick here at 107. Jagger, where are we going here at this point? Because in my opinion, this is a little bit wide open. And despite it being a little bit wide open, there were several times in this draft that you kept taking the guy that I was hoping I would take next. And this was one of those scenarios.
I would actually take KC Concepcion here. I didn't expect him to fall after I didn't take him. So I tried to do something different this mock, and I went with Jonah Coleman because Jonah Coleman is just a safe floor. To me, Kenyon Sadiq is like you said, Mott, I would put him into that tier with those other wide receivers, but that is a hard tier for me. Jonah Coleman is more about me playing the gamesmanship move, where I want a running back that I feel very confident is going to get day 2 draft capital and someone who has the tools to be an every down back. And, I like the Doug Martin comps. He's always moving forward. He's very good at running behind his pads. He's not a liability on check down passes. He's not someone that you're going to worry is going to let a ball bounce off his brick hands. So it's a safe pick in a position that is very thin, and that's kind of raises your value just from a dynasty gamesmanship standpoint.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Very, very talented player. I'm excited. He's one of the running backs that I still have to do. He's like the last bigger name running back that I haven't done my deep dive on yet. But right now, when I'm looking at the rest of the class, it's either going to end up being him or, spoiler alert, Jadarian Price as my running back too. We'll kind of see how these guys play out, but
you never know.
What's that?
There could be a DJ Dallas hiding in this.
There
list
could
somewhere.
be. You never know when a Tyjae Spears might just poke his head out and be like, "Hey, here I am." You never know. And there are a couple running backs that I've watched and I've been like, "Ooh, okay." Like I could see myself drafting you and not hating myself. So there are a couple guys, but there's definitely guys I'm a little higher on, some guys I'm a little bit lower on. A guy here that I was hoping to take at 108, but he went in Jonah Coleman. So here at 108, now I decided to go with his teammate, Denzel Boston. And I've been probably the biggest guy on this show as far as being in Denzel Boston's corner. We'll see what the draft capital ends up being. I keep seeing a lot of mocks with him in the first round, even though I'm the guy with, that's on his squad. At this point, I feel more comfortable saying, top 50 pick than I do first round pick. I do think he's going to be a top 50 guy unless he just totally sucks at the combine or something like that and just kills his draft stock. But the player overall, I think he's a very solid route runner. He tends to get open. He has very strong hands. He's got the good size that you're looking for. So there's just a lot in his game that I think really makes me feel solid about a guy like a Denzel Boston. So right now, Jared, I know you've done your wide receivers for the most part. Denzel Boston, one of those guys that you've done your deep dive on, and if so,
yeah,
worthy of first round hype or not really?
I don't think so. I don't see it. I could see round 2 definitely. Like he's not the full package that you would take in the first round. Like he's more of like a physical type boundary receiver that'll be good in the red zone, really good in contested catch situations. Just lacks some of that high end athleticism you want to see from a top end wide receiver prospect. So that's how I look at him right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so Denzel Boston goes at 108, 109. J-Wack, you're up.
Yeah, so I'm up, and this is the next receiver after the top 3 that we took earlier that I have ranked right now. behind those three. So I'm taking Germie Bernard from Alabama. I spoke about him a couple weeks ago on the show. I think he's just a guy that you can move around in your offense. Alabama handed the ball to him sometimes. You can run him on jet sweeps. You can line him up in the slot, the boundary, runs very good routes, not top end speed, elite speed, but good enough speed. He's quick, very good at making people miss after the catch. He's physical. He's just going to do all the little things that a team is going to ask of him. I see him projecting as like a really good wide receiver 2 in an NFL offense.
Yeah, absolutely. And Andrew, are you a fan of Germie Bernard as well?
Yeah, I mean, he's the one I was hoping was going to come back to me right here, so I could have picked him with my next pick, but I just see that I can't draft against Jared because he's just going to draft all the guys that I like. It's so not even the guys. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, I like Germie Bernard. I think, I said last week on our episode that he's a player that outside of the top 3 wide receivers for me, if I was looking across the rest of the wide receiver class and saying which one of these guys is going to have the easiest transition or the easiest ability to just go into the NFL day one and be trusted by a head coach, a coaching staff, an offensive coordinator to be a guy in their offense. I think Germie Bernard is the most veteran type of guy coming out of college. Like, he just feels like the guy who the IQ is off the charts. He does everything well. There's a lot of things that he can be trusted with. So kind of just to echo what Jared said, like, yeah, he's a guy that I'm very interested in. And I think he's going to be, you said with Carnell Tate, a safe guy at the next level. I think Germie Bernard is going to be a safe guy at the next level too, just not as high of a ceiling as a guy like Tate would.
All right. Well, you took or Jared took your receiver. So I think you returned the favor to Jagger and took his receiver at 110, right?
Well, I was just looking at the board and I'm like, man, all right, I guess I'll just go to a guy that I thought Jagger was going to take way earlier. And I also kind of like him. So I'm going to take Casey Concepcion at the 110. And it's just looking at talent, man, like just trying to look at the board and say which one of these guys has the most talent, because we are kind of in a spot where you mentioned it kind of opens up and you can start looking at a bunch of different guys and saying like, I like this guy a little bit more than others. But I think there's traits to Casey Concepcion that NFL teams are going to like. And like Jagger said, he's getting a little bit of first round buzz. Like, could he sneak into the first round because of some of the athleticism that he's shown? But this year at Texas A&M, 61 receptions, 919 yards, 9 touchdowns. I think he's a very solid route runner. I wouldn't call him an elite route runner, but he's a very solid route runner. I think he's a good hands catcher, has a good ability to pluck the football out of the air. He's not really using his body that much when he's making these catches, so I like to see that too. And I think he's very tough after the catch, explosive after the catch, hard to bring down, and he's going to pick up those chunk plays in the yak game after he's made that catch. So he's a player that I think has the ability to have these big games, has these boom games, and is going to be an explosive weapon for an NFL offense. And I think he can be trusted as a wide receiver 2 in an NFL offense. I'm not necessarily projecting him to be a wide receiver 1 at the next level, but I think he can be a really good number 2. Maybe not from a play style standpoint, but think of the offenses of like how a Jordan Addison or how a Jameson Williams is to their offenses.
For you, Jagger, is there any scenario that could happen in the NFL draft that would put Concepcion ahead of any of those big 3 receivers?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I feel very good about it. And I know like that.
What would be that scenario for you that would like really elevate him up your board?
The combine will be huge. What does he test? Like if he can get down to like 4.3, I'm not sure if he's going to be a 4.3 guy, but at least like very, very low sub like 4.4 and has very good agility scores. I could see a team that's going to take him ahead. And I know I sound like a hater. I think I'm going to just be a lot lower on Jordyn Tyson than a lot of other people. And Makai Lemon, I don't actually think that a lot of these guys are top 15 picks in the NFL is where I'm at. I think I'm lower than everyone. Does that make sense? So I'm not saying Casey Concepcion is that good. I'm saying that no one else is that good on top of that, if that makes sense.
So you think this is closer to, we mentioned it before, the 2023 class.
Yes.
Where all these guys are taken in kind of the 20s. That's more where you would feel comfortable.
Yes. Like, I think like after the 15th pick, we'll start seeing receivers go off the board. And if anyone takes someone early, it's going to be Carnell Tate because he has the traits that a lot of people don't coach, which is size,
Okay. All right. Well, Jagger, that puts you back on the clock. And I'm going to sound like a broken record, but you once again took a guy that I was like, all right, this guy doesn't need to fall out of the first round. I'm going to make sure I get him. And then you took him here at 111. So who'd you take?
I've snapped on Ty Simpson because we were all high on him first half of the season. Second half of the season, we're like, what happened? I started with the tape with Ty Simpson, his OU tape. That is not a good spot to start with Ty Simpson at all. That was a horrible game to look at where I was just like, who is this? I was like, is this your king? When I'm watching that. And then I got context and kind of like how you were with Jordyn Tyson, where you got context on the injuries and that kind of made you not worry. Well, I know why it looks like when you watch the Georgia tape with Ty Simpson, where you're like, this is a first round pick. And then you go look at the OU tape, you're like, this is Cade Klubnik. And apparently this kid was just tore up, man. He had some elbow bursitis or bursitis in his back. Like he had a myriad of injuries that he was playing through. And it looks like that on tape. So especially in a weak class, in a lot of QB needy teams, it is a no-brainer that even from an NFL standpoint, getting away from fantasy, that you should probably take a shot on Ty Simpson if health was just a factor, and like you said with Jordyn Tyson, Andrew, all these injuries are just kind of different and they just happen to compound. Not so much where I'm re-injuring a knee or something.
Yeah. For you, Jared, I know you've been one of the guys that's been kind of high on him over the process. Do you feel good about him being a first-round NFL draft pick? And of course, we always talk about it. If you're a first-round pick in the NFL draft at quarterback, there's a good chance we want you in the first round of our fantasy drafts for Superflex as well.
I could see it because the class has like no other guys really that I would want to take a shot on as a franchise. I think he's just lacking some size a little bit. But he's extremely tough and he shows up in big moments and he'll get hit like 10 times like in a game hard, but he just keeps bouncing back. So I love seeing that kind of stuff. He protects the football. He's not afraid to stand in the pocket and throw it across the middle of the field. I think he does that really well. He goes through his progressions. He's a very good athlete. He can make plays with his feet. So I think there's traits and things to like. I think he needs time. So I'd like to see him land somewhere where he might not need to start his first year. He can sit and learn and just give it time because I think he still needs to develop. But like I said, I think there's traits to like for sure with Ty Simpson. So if you're able to grab him here and he is a first round NFL draft pick, like at the back end of the first round of your rookie draft, that's a great spot. That's kind of where like Dart was going last year. And
this is the Jackson Dart bet.
It paid off massively. And I agree with you there too, Jared, where it's like, I think the lack of quarterback talent in the class is pushing him up boards, but there are traits that make it make sense to an extent. To me, you talked about like you want him to go sit somewhere and learn. I think of a team like the Los Angeles Rams who have multiple first round picks this year. Could they be a team that says, you know what, Stafford, let's run it back. You come in, you play, we'll put Ty Simpson on the bench behind you, and maybe he's the heir to the throne down the road, but we have some luxury because we called up Atlanta last year and robbed them blind. So, we have some luxury to make that decision here this year, and I think they have the ammo to do it.
That'd be a great landing spot.
Yep, absolutely. At 112, I went with Chris Brazzell, another guy that has some potential to be in the first round, but I feel much more comfortable at the early to mid second round. But talking about a player that really elevated his stock after transferring, when he got to Tennessee, people are like, man, this dude's super tall, really quick, really athletic. Like there's a lot in his game that really, really showed out this year. And during the regular season, he was actually the only guy in the regular season in the SEC with 1,000 yards. Now, after some of the bowl games and stuff like that, there were a couple other players that crossed the threshold. But with this guy, real chance to be an X wide receiver at the next level. But even if they decide you're a great big play guy, we're going to have you be a Z, he's going to make a lot of big plays down the field, and he's going to be a mismatch nightmare. He is probably, though, of most of the guys we've talked about, one of the biggest boom bust possibilities of all these players. Where there's a lot of raw athletic ability and size and all that kind of stuff, he's definitely somebody that needs to add some weight, needs to add some play strength, there's some things that he's got to improve on at the next level to kind of continue this maturation process. So there's definitely risk here with Brazzell, but man, the ceiling is just super, super enticing. So with that wraps up our first round. Our second round will go a little bit quicker. We'll probably just have the guy that picked talked about the player, unless there's any big notes anybody wants to interject with. But let me recap the first round real quick. First round, we had Jeremiyah Love, or the first pick, we had Jeremiyah Love, then Fernando Mendoza, Makai Lemon, Carnell Tate, Jordyn Tyson, Kenyon Sadiq, Jonah Coleman, Denzel Boston, Germie Bernard, Casey Concepcion, and then Ty Simpson and Chris Brazzell. J-Wack, we're now into the second round. Who'd you take?
I'm taking another running back out of Notre Dame, which is crazy to say. So I'm not a big Notre Dame guy at all. Jadarian Price. So the price is right, Garrett?
Yeah.
He could be your RB2 in this class. So, I mean, getting the RB2 in a class that, admittedly is weak after Love. It's probably the weakest positional group in this entire draft. But extremely good kick returner, very versatile player, one cut runner. So he's got good speed. He's got good size to him too. I haven't done like my nerd score on him yet, because you were starting with running backs. I'm starting with receivers. So I'm excited to get in there and truthfully like see every rep from behind the line of scrimmage in the box. But I like to see that you've already graded him, and seeing where he's at on your list makes me feel good about this pick. What do you think, Garrett?
Yeah, I like the kid quite a bit. Just missed getting a 74 for me. So it's weird to say like he's my RB2 in the class and we're not even at a 74. But very, very solid all around player. He's going to do a lot of things well. He doesn't have one defining trait that really kind of elevates him, but definitely like the player overall. So I would be totally fine taking him here at 2-1. And in fact, I even considered him at 112 when I just picked. So no issue. I
forgot to mention he tore his Achilles in 2022, which is, I think, important to know.
Yeah, that's fair. Do you remember, just off the top of your head, some of the other running backs in recent years who've ranked around a 74?
I could look and see. Go ahead. Why don't you talk about your pick at 2-2, Andrew? And I'll throw out a couple names that were right in that same range.
Yeah. This is like my guy territory for me. So we saw some of the guys that I think are safer picks in Jadarian Price and guys like Jonah Coleman come off the board, but I go back to the running back and go with a guy that I actually like on tape quite a bit. It's Emmett Johnson, running back from Nebraska. This is a guy who, to me, I know we have differing opinions on him, Garrett, but was very explosive. I thought he was a very explosive athlete, and I think the main thing that I really like about him is the fact that he is truly a real receiving threat. He was utilized as a receiver there at Nebraska a lot this year, and they were lining him up out wide. He was running routes. Like, he wasn't just like, oh yeah, we use our running back sometimes to throw the football to. No, he was being schemed as a receiver out of their backfield, and the production was there for him too. 251 carries for 1,451 yards. That's fourth in college football. And he added like 350 receiving in the air. So I think he's a player capable of carrying the workload. He's a little bit undersized, 5'11", 200 pounds, but he's a guy that I could see being a change of pace guy at the next level, where if circumstance gives him a larger workload, or whether that be lack of talent on the roster or injuries ahead of him, I could see him being a guy who is a producer at the next level. And I've thrown out a comparison of, I see a little bit of Chase Brown in his game. Maybe not the high-end production that we've seen out of Chase Brown at the fantasy football level for dynasty leagues, but I see some Chase Brown in his game as well.
Just for to answer your question, the two guys that I have directly ahead all time of Jadarian Price are Travis Etienne, Jalen Wright. The two guys directly behind, Cam Akers and Zach Charbonnet. So that's kind of the range he's sitting in right now. Definitely some solid names in that grouping. So, all right, that puts, let's see, Jagger, you're up at 203.
Ja'Kobi Lane is who I'm going with. I'm a big fan of him. I keep drafting him in all these mocks because I think the value there is great. And like I said, I really like Carnell Tate. I'm not disparaging anyone or any of these wide receivers, but I think there's just a really good bunch of people here that all grade out as second round picks. Some of them could creep up into like the first round, depending on the depth of other positions in some classes. Ja'Kobi Lane, I think, is someone who's going to be underrated. He gets in the right spot. I can immediately see him be a producer. Someone like, maybe not exactly play style, but a lot like Romeo Dubs in an offense when you got size, whatever. So I'm a big fan.
Yeah. He's actually, I think, my most drafted player on Fast Draft is Ja'Kobi Lane. So I just got him recently, like in the 4th round. So definitely a good value there. All right. I'm up at 2-4 and at 2-4 and 2-5, we have two players I mentioned in the very, very beginning where we have most of our clarity. We're still missing clarity on two players. So I'll just kind of talk about, I'll say both these guys, but I'll let Jared talk about his guy and I'll talk about mine. But at 2-4, we have Trinidad Chambliss. Right now, he's eligible to come out. He could come out if he wanted to. But the issue is he's in the middle of a lawsuit. Like, it doesn't seem like he wants to come out. Like, he wants to go back for another year at Ole Miss, which I get it. He was playing smaller competition before that. Get another year in the SEC. I really, really like this player. So I'll talk about him in a second. The other one we're waiting on is Omar Cooper. That's who Jared's going to be talking about here in a second. And it's just because the declare date for guys in the national championship game is tomorrow. So there's even a chance by the time you listen to this, we'll know if Omar Cooper decided to go back to school or not. But for Trinidad Chambliss, I think talent-wise, I think he's every bit as good, if not maybe better than Ty Simpson. I really, really like his game, and especially for fantasy purposes, he's got a little more running ability. He's got more giddy up and go. He's going to make some guys miss. He's going to scramble. He's going to do some things that are going to be exciting. But I thought he had a lot of really good throws for a guy that, I mean, came from a smaller school, Division II, and just stepped right in and didn't miss a beat. Every big moment didn't seem too big. He would go toe-to-toe with other teams and back and forth. And just, I mean, there was so much to like with how he played this season. So I would love for him to come back. This is another player where I did a mock draft recently, and I mocked him to the Rams. So it's another guy that if he sat a year and you give him Sean McVay, like it would be pretty nice. So we'll see how things work out with him. A big fan of his. Jared, tell us about Omar Cooper, who you took at 2-5.
Yeah, while you were talking, I was trying to do some research on both these guys because we're getting close to the official date where Omar Cooper needs to declare, and then seeing if there's any news on Chambliss. And it looks like Ole Miss, I just read a report that Ole Miss is optimistic that the courts are going to grant an injunction which will allow him to play in 2026. So it's looking like it's leaning towards him going back. But I'm with you on your analysis there. I'm taking Omar Cooper here, wide receiver from Indiana. And man, this kid kind of came out of nowhere. But when you watch his film, and if you watch the national championship game or Indiana's crazy playoff run, like this kid sticks out. When he gets the ball in his hands, he's going to make somebody miss. I saw a stat that he forced a missed tackle on 30% of his receptions this year, which is insane. Like that's a really elite number. And so he's got wiggle. He breaks tackles. He's 6'4", 205 pounds. I'm not 6'4". He's 6 foot, 204 pounds. And he's primarily a slot receiver, so like a bigger slot guy. But I like him a lot. I kind of comp him maybe to Jarvis Landry a bit. Or if you want to get crazy, Puka Nacua, because of the after the catch skills and the physicality. But I don't know if he's that good at the catch point. But I have not done my nerd score on him yet because I'm still waiting to see if he officially declares, which should come any day now. But anybody else have thoughts on Cooper? I don't want to hear Jagger's thoughts. I don't, because I know it's negative, because I know he doesn't like him that much.
Actually, no. There's.
Oh, okay. Last week we talked about it a little bit. So
well, again, like I'm catching up on some.
We're
of
going
those
to last week, Jagger.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
no, I know a week is a big difference.
A week is a huge difference. I watched off Fernando Mendoza's tape.
Okay.
Thus, I've seen Omar Cooper's tape, and Omar Cooper is just like, oh, I get it. You know, when you talk about that body control,
he's a dog.
Yeah, that dude's a baller. Actually, I like him. Like when you talk about value to talent, I like Omar Cooper at cost more than Elijah Sarratt. Like to put it that way. So I am a fan. So congrats, Jared. You've won me over. You've done your job.
Good to hear. I was between him and Sarratt here. So Andrew, you're up next at 206.
Yeah, I mean, at 206, I'm going to stick in Indiana, and we're going Elijah Sarratt, man. It's hard to look at any of these guys that have played there this year and just not be impressed with what happened there at Indiana. So Sarratt's a guy who I'm going to end up taking at the 206. Different type of wide receiver, just a physical, big guy, 6'2", 209. It doesn't look big on the stat sheet, but he plays big as a wide receiver, and he led college football with 15 touchdowns. This is a guy who's a red zone threat, big chunk play type of wide receiver, and I think he's underrated as a route runner as well. So he's a guy that I think is going to definitely have a role at the next level. Is he going to end up being, a team's go-to guy? Probably not. I wouldn't project that right now, but I think he's going to be solid at the next level, and he's the guy that I take. It kind of sounds like, for the most part, though, Jared, you are Omar over Sarratt. Jagger, you are Omar over Sarratt. Garrett, are you the same way?
It's hard to say until I do the real tape dive. But if I had to pick today, I would take Omar as well.
Yeah, I think I am too. It's took
close.
Omar right from me. So I had to do it again. Again, this is another time of Jared just taking the guys that I want to draft or whatever.
See, I thought I was being bold because, I don't know. It's just, I like the kid a lot, but the conversation around him hasn't really been there throughout the whole process. So he's kind of coming.
It may be because of that lack of clarity that we're seeing, right? Like, we don't know whether or not he's going to be in this class. And to full transparency here, there was 3 guys I was looking at. I was looking at both the Indiana wide receivers that we just talked about, and I was looking at Chris Bell because he's a guy that I like too. We'll talk about him later, but those were kind of the guys in this range where I was like, I want one of them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, at 2-7, you're up, Jagger. And if Jared keeps taking Andrews, Jagger keeps taking guys I like. I thought for sure I was just gonna wait, let him fall to me at 212, and he'll be the last guy that I get to talk about. But Jagger's like, nah, we're gonna take him here. Who'd you go with at 2-7?
All the guys I like are kind of gone, so I'm taking guys that I like. I'm gonna take my Arkansas boy here, and I was just on Fantasy Points talking with Theo, and they asked me who my riser is. I'm like, man, we've been talking about this guy, Mike Washington. See, the problem is that we're all good at our jobs, and now that we are talking to each other often, we're all selling each other. I'm like, man, Garrett showed me this guy, and he's right, and so now he's my guy too. So so that's what's happening.
Yeah, 100%. What about him really appeals to you?
It's the size speed combo, where you got someone who could be a home run hitter. If you think if you liked Braylon Allen, I think we're making that bet here. And I think he's a bit more polished in certain areas, particularly in the passing game, because that's the high upside that you want to chase. He's not just when you think of like size, Damian Martinez, who like barely could make a roster, it's not that. If anything, he's closer to like Ramondre Stevenson with juice. I think that is like the ceiling comp for sure. That's best case scenario. And when you get here at the 207 in a weak class, that's where you're gonna make those bets.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I really really liked his tape. He is currently the running back 3 in the class for me right now. So he's making his case. He's an older prospect, which obviously at running back we don't love that. But there's people knocking him because his numbers were just kind of okay before his time at Arkansas. But here's the thing: when you're able to do what he did, over 1,000 yards this year at Arkansas, it's at Arkansas. You're playing SEC defenses with very little help. Like it is impressive. So 6.4 yards a carry, and some speed to burn. So I
saw somebody giving you shit on Twitter.
Yeah. It happens,
One of those accounts that don't want to put their real name on it or in their
Dynasty
picture
guy,
or profile picture,
in their face.
Yeah. You gotta ignore
an
those
anime
accounts.
Character.
No, yeah. They can say what they want.
All right. Well, I had to lick my wounds and not take Mike Washington Jr. So I went with Zachariah Branch here. This is somebody that, I feel like a little bit of a broken record because there's a lot of these wide receivers that were like, there's some people talking about him in the first, but, feel more comfortable in the second. Zachariah Branch is another one of those guys. This is a player that is going to do some good things just as an athlete. That's really where he wins. He can do some things in the kick return game. He's maybe not as polished as some other receivers, which I don't typically love, but he's just a game changer. You put the ball in his hands and he figures out a way to make plays. And that's what he's done his entire career. He did it as a true freshman at USC, and he did it this year for Georgia as well. So I know some people have put him as their wide receiver 4. I'm not there, but to get a player that at least is even getting buzz in the first round at 2.8, I feel pretty solid about that. So anybody, particular strong feelings? Go ahead, Jared.
With him, I think he's going to be one of those guys that gets higher draft capital because of what he does for your offense.
Yeah.
And he won't be as good for fantasy purposes. So I could definitely see him become overdrafted in rookie drafts because defenses, when he's on the field, defenses have to respect him. You got to stay home because if they throw a little screen pass out and you bite on the fake, the RPO goes the other way, he can house it. So it's his opportunities I don't think are going to be there. The volume's not really going to be there, but the draft capital might be. So that's just kind of how I'm projecting him right now.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Well, who'd you take at 2.9, J-Wack?
I don't love this pick. I don't love this player, but it's like we have to stop the fall somewhere. Because maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm wrong and he ends up producing. So I'm going with running back out of Penn State, Nicholas Singleton, 55 total career touchdowns at Penn State, catches the ball pretty well out of the backfield. Just really good athlete, probably more athlete than running back, I would say. When he gets a lane, he can hit it and he can make a big play. He can run physical, he's got some size to him too. I feel like at the back end of the second round, I'm willing to take a swing on a prospect with his type of profile. So we'll see where he ends up landing. And as the process goes on, my opinion may sway either worse or better. So we'll see.
He's one of those running backs that, every year, we talked about it with Omar Cooper and stuff, these guys that make the decision, should I go back or should I come out? Nicholas Singleton's one of those guys where like he made the wrong decision. Had he come out a year earlier, I think people in the draft community, people in the fantasy community, just people in general were much higher on Singleton coming off of that junior season. He went back. It seems like the tape got worse. The production got worse. Obviously, Penn State had a horrible year. James Franklin gets fired. Like, Allard did the same thing. It was just bad news for everybody that ended up going back for Penn State. And he's a player that I think I like taking shots on, especially when it comes to this point in the draft where you see early career production. Sorry, hold on.
My alarm went off too.
That's my wife calling me.
Laundry alarm.
But you see early career production from these players, and then it kind of tapers off at the end. But it's like, it's not easy to produce early on in college. So if you have guys that have done that, yes, there's a little red flag of like, why did it stop? But I still like to take a shot on those guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Garrett, where do you have him graded?
So I'm going to be a little lower than the rest of the community. He got pretty much a flat 70 for me, which is not a death sentence by any stretch of the imagination.
Kind of, though.
But it's definitely like you feel really good about, like, if you get above like a 75 and a half for me, you're in a really good spot. You get above like a 72, there's a real chance for you to at least be a contributor. And then kind of the 68 to 72 range is like fingers crossed. And then below a 68 is like, just kind of forget about them. It's kind of how it's played out in our system. There's exceptions to every rule, but yeah, it's definitely not an ideal range. And I think he's currently running back 4. So if that tells you anything,
well, you have a lot more to do, but yeah.
I do have a lot more to do. I have to do Jonah Coleman for sure. And then there's 2 or 3 other guys, but Jonah Coleman's the only one that's been drafted so far that I haven't graded. So if that tells you anything, I'm not projecting there to be many more guys that are going to be in that range. So we'll have to see. But yeah, it's RB4 sounds good until you like give the score with it.
Relative.
Like, oh.
It is Jeremiyah Love or forget about it.
Yep, absolutely. Andrew, I know you've been a big fan of the player that you got to take here. He didn't get sniped from you. So who'd you take at 210?
Yeah, first time Jared hasn't done it. So, and I'm surprised because he likes him too, I think. So, this is a player in Chris Bell, wide receiver out of Louisville, that I think if you are one of the people that don't watch the entirety of the college football season, you probably are sleeping on Chris Bell at the moment because he got injured, and before the injury looked like he was on trajectory to be one of the better wide receivers in college football this year. The production came out of nowhere. It's early days of when we were doing our show, I brought him up on an episode of Sleepers. And then he goes out and has like 2 games where he's like 200 yards and 2 touchdowns or 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. Can't remember exactly, but it's like he's a player that has this big, fast, physical profile that can be a big play guy for you at the NFL. And so I think he's a player right now because of the injury. People aren't necessarily looking at the box scores and being impressed by what they see. That's because he missed time. But he's a player I think could rise up boards if the medicals check out fine. I think that's the biggest thing for me right now, and why we see him in this range is how healthy is he going to be come combine time? I don't know. And how's that going to affect draft stock and things like that?
Yeah, he's not going to do the combine. He tore it in November. Yeah, so he's probably not even going to be doing that. But he's actually graded 68 for me right now. But I want to just say, like, he's very raw is what I noticed, like, because he can go for his size. Like, once he gets going, like, he can go. But I just think he lacks a little bit of the side-to-side, quickness skills, which attributes to your route running ability and that kind of stuff. But yeah, for his size, like when the ball's in his hands, he can take the top off or catch it and go.
All right, we got 2 players left. Jagger, you're up with the penultimate pick here at 211. Who you going with?
Deion Burks. I like him a lot, man. I just This is a testament to the depth in the pass catchers. Because again, it's not top heavy, but I think in another class that's not 2026 or 2027, Deion Burks is going to have real day two buzz. And I think he already does already, just because he's pretty electric and he's a very good route runner. So he's someone that's going to be an easy click for me, especially in the second round. I'm not going to be taking a lot of running backs. I know usually in Dynasty, they're like, get running backs so they have a shot. I don't believe that as much in this one, and I do think the pass catchers will have a bigger shot. So,
yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, and especially, typically I am that guy. I'm taking a lot of running backs here in this range. I don't know that there's going to be many that I'm wanting to pull the trigger on in this spot. Maybe I'll have a my guy or two. Hopefully Mike Washington slips to me here more often, so I can get him. And there's a couple other names that I've seen. I was like, the right scenario. I don't hate them, but
I feel like as we get through the process more, we might see a couple of the other tight ends come into the second round a little bit.
That's what I was going to bring up, because we talked about it, Jagger, on our show a week back or 2 weeks back, where you were a big fan of Michael Trigg, and then we go through the whole second round, and I don't see any tight ends come off the board. It makes me kind of think, like, if these guys get better draft capital than we think, we might start looking at these guys get pushed up the board.
And again, I intentionally try to draft different people because I feel like I'm saying the same things about the same guys.
Yeah,
so like that's why I'm at, because I wanted to take Trigg several times. Yeah, exactly.
Do for the nerd herd.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Max Clare, Eli Stowers, Michael Trigg, all of those guys have a shot to be second round picks. So we'll just kind of have to see how all this plays out. Final pick in the draft. I went a little different route too. I went with Ted Hurst here, wide receiver, Georgia Southern, in fact, or Georgia State. Georgia State here. He's one of these guys that got invited to the Senior Bowl. And I was like, I don't know anything about this kid. I want to. So I watched a little bit. I watched one full game. Then I watched some highlights, read some scouting reports on him. And the more I looked into him, the more I actually really liked him. 6'3", so he's got some good height to him. Another guy though that's a little bit lean. He's weighing in right now at 185. I'd like to see him at 6'3" get closer to 200 pounds. But he's actually got really solid speed overall. So he makes some big plays downfield, and he's got very, very strong hands. So my biggest issue with him was a little bit off the line, which can be a concern. His first step is quick, but he has no hand fighting technique at all, which can be a problem. So, but those are things that can be coached. If he can add some weight and we can learn how to hand fight a little bit better, there's some raw ability here for a guy like Ted Hurst, and especially at 6'3", solid hands and good speed. That's typically a recipe for some pretty good success. So excited to dig into him more, see how he does at the Senior Bowl. But he was kind of a flyer at the end there. I was like, let's throw some Ted Hurst in here for funsies. So that wraps things up. Let me recap the second round for us real quick. At 2-1, we had Jadarian Price. 2-2, Emmett Johnson. 2-3, Jacoby Lane. 2-4, Trinidad Chambliss. 2-5, Omar Cooper Jr. 2-6, Elijah Sarratt. 2-7, Mike Washington Jr. 2-8, Zachariah Branch. 2-9, Nicholas Singleton. 2-10, Chris Bell. 2-11, Deion Burks. And 2-12, Ted Hurst. Anybody real quick before we sneak out of here, anybody else that you're like, we mentioned the tight ends, obviously. Is there anybody else that you're like, I would have really liked to have gotten them in here, just didn't work out?
Nah, not yet.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. We're drafting in this mid to late second round, and I'm like, these feel like third round and fourth round guys from like last year's class or, a couple years back. Like these second round picks, they don't feel the way that they felt, over the last couple of years.
Same.
I almost took Mark Fletcher, but he's another guy we're still waiting on.
I think he already told people he's going back. I don't know that he made like
did he?
Official Twitter announcement, but they mentioned it on the broadcast, I think, that he already said he's going to go back.
Okay.
But you shouldn't. He should come out because it's a weak class. They could use him, but it is what it is.
No, I'm excited to do another mock draft here. Probably another month, guys, like a few weeks.
Add a third round to it.
Yeah, and see how things are different.
Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl, guys rising up. We watch more tape. could change a lot. So
yeah.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you for hanging out with us. Make sure you've subscribed to this channel. If you've made it this far, you've made it an hour and 4 minutes in, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're trying to build up something new here. We're excited about it. Make sure you like, and even once you like, there's a hype button. If you can hit that hype button for us, we'd greatly appreciate it. That really helps move up these videos on the channels and on the feeds. We appreciate it. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya.